The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, it's politics all the way. And of course, you're all aware that we are in a political season where everything about the polity is politics. And the governorship and state assembly elections were conducted last Saturday. And what we have been witnessing since yesterday and today, Monday, is the results that have been trickling in. And the big issue for the day is the governorship and state assembly poll and the bandwagon effect. As usual, I'm your regular host, and with me here in the studio is a very vibrant in-house analyst. I'm talking of Chibuzo Okaide. Well, the governorship and state assembly election held last Saturday took a different pattern from that of the presidential and national assembly election held on February 25, 2023. Unlike what most Nigerians had expected, that the election would go the way the presidential poll went, the governorship election took a different dimension. Most of the states where we were expecting a major upset, the governors retained their position. Both the governors of the governing All Progressives Congress and those of the opposition People's Democratic Party. In Lagos, where it was expected that Peter Obi of the Labour Party would carry the day with his governorship candidate, Badebo Rosvivo Sanwo-Olu retained his seat. In states of Gombe, Yobe, where the PDP won in the presidential election, the governors who are second-term governors retained their positions and were re-elected for a second term. Well, Chibuzo, what would we say about this? Because it amounts to what we have been talking. Although we have made a report, and the report by leadership stated that was talking about how the presidential election will affect the governorship election. And I think that report appeared to be right, because in that report it was predicted that perhaps what we'll be witnessing in the governorship election is the bandwagon effect. This is what has come. If not, one would have expected that the upstage by a Labour Party candidate would be in Lagos State would have been replayed in the governorship election, where the governorship candidate of the Labour Party became so popular by the day. And one would have expected that he would have trounced the incumbent governor, Sanwo-Olu. But Sanwo-Olu got it on a platter of gold. What could you say could be the reason for the voting pattern in the governorship election, unlike the presidential election?
Thank you. Let me start this way. I think this is one of the most contentious elections, state elections that we have seen in a long time. It has been marked by not just apathy, but violence on a very high scale. So far, there's a report that no less than 21 people were killed, in this whole process, this electoral cycle, and that is really appalling for any country that has tried to do democracy for the past 24 years. We've done elections over and over again too many innovations have been introduced into our electoral system to ensure that it has more credibility and more transparency. But here we are having to deal with the sheer enormity of violence that we experienced and loss of lives. We saw in Lagos where you say got on someone got on the platform. We saw a lot of voter suppression. How thugs had the field they attacking various polling units in the state. I'm not sure that will count for what we need for credible election. I'm not sure that will count for what we need for an election that people should be proud of. So it's really unfortunate that we are still having to deal with these kinds of issues.
At the stage of our democracy.
We also saw that in Rivers. We also saw that in other parts of the country. So it is really a huge testament to one, the character of our political class. It shows how desperate they are and how unrefined they are regardless of whatever things they do. You don't force people to vote for you. You don't force yourself to serve them. You should allow people make their choice. And we've also seen how thugs would attack even position centers. We saw what played out in Abia State.
INEC officials were
abducted. The abduction of INEC officials.
INEC officials and journalists were chased out of
the journalist was even beaten in the premises of the traditional ruler
of Lagos.
The traditional ruler, journalist was injured, was beaten up. So these are things that will define these elections. Way after the results have been announced, way after whoever has won will be celebrating a victory or whatever. These are the things that will define this season of elections. And I think the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, will really have to sit back and reflect on how, of course, like this, they've said repeatedly that they're going to do that. But I think from what local and international observers have witnessed so far, this is a progression on gains made over the past 4 years of how to improve the electoral process.
But the security agencies, especially the army, have been saying repeatedly that the election will take a turn for the better, especially the governorship and state assembly election. Far from what happened in the presidential election. It's so sad that it turned out that the governorship and state assembly and the elections were worst compared to the presidential election. And it has to do with irregularities, vote buying, voter suppression, and the rest. Are we going to say now that the way it is going, the electoral umpire, INEC, rather than improving, is regressing by
Well, the assessment is that with regards to logistics and early deployment to polling units and all of that, there's a slight improvement in the governorship elections, like what happened in the presidential elections. In the presidential elections, a lot of places had not seen a lot of polling voters in the early polling units didn't get to see the electoral officials until about midday. And so that was quite prevalent during the presidential elections. And then we also had the problem of failure to upload, which was the major issue that provided that election. There was relatively not much violence, even in Lagos, where it became a theater of violence. Lagos and Rivers, where it became a theater of violence in the state elections. We didn't get as much violence. They were, but we didn't get as much. But the challenge was just that there were problems of INEC not fulfilling its promise to ensure the uploading of the results on the island. But that was the major complaint. In these state elections, well, that was not so much. Maybe because people didn't turn out, as
As
because
expected.
of their apathy in that played out. Many people were just disillusioned before they saw the performance of INEC and the whole process in the presidential election. So maybe that didn't affect the uploading and all of that. But still, you mentioned the security agents, and I think they really dropped the ball on this one. Because in states, we saw where um, security agents stood by while thugs had a field day. Of course, in some areas they tried to intervene, but predominantly we saw where they just stood by and allowed the thugs had a field day in certain states. But again, Rivers and Lagos, we saw where thugs just had a field day, interrupting the process, really little or no resistance from security agencies. So I think these are some of the issues that would really be looked into all over again as far as these elections. And these are things that the institutions should really pay attention to, because what this has further done is to erode whatever trust citizens would have in this institution. And these are two very fundamental institutions as far as civil existence is concerned. Because one has to do with how transition, how people choose their leaders, and the other has to do with how law and order should be maintained in society. So if these two key institutions that make for civil coexistence have this level of trust issues, you can imagine the implication of that civil psyche. So it is a big challenge that we're up against.
Well, talking about voter apathy, just like you said here, they, I will agree with you that there was a big voter apathy because when we see the total number of vote cast, it is very clear that voters didn't come out this time around. Nigerians felt discouraged, especially the obedient. The obedience were not visible at all in the governorship and state assembly election. And the idea is that when this presidential candidate, Peter Obi, crashed the interest of the obedient members in the electioneering wane, and there was fatigue because most of the pro-B voters shunned the polling booths. They were not protesting the outcome of the presidential poll. And the interest and that of Rose Vivo in Lagos did not align at all. You can see how the presidential election affected the governorship and state assembly poll. I think the interest in that election was Obi. And when they lost, the Obedient went back to sleep. What would you say in this regard? Would that have been the better thing to do for the Obedient?
It is interesting you use the expression that we crashed. Quite interesting. But again, this is an election that many people felt didn't go the way it went. If things had gone the way, if the process, because it's about the process now, if the process had gone the way, even if we lost,
And that is even
there wouldn't have been much of an issue.
that is even the reason why I use the
So-
word crash instead of lost.
The
Because
word-
when you say lost,
crash, no,
you are
the impression
actually
of crash.
legitimizing the loss to say you are indeed lost. But when you say crashed,
Get the idea.
an
Get
accident
the
may have
idea.
occurred.
Get the idea. No. An accident is a function of somebody not doing what was supposed to do most time. Accidents don't just happen. And I think that should be put in. Accidents don't just happen. Accidents are usually a function of recklessness, careless, or willful disregard for the system, undermining the system, and that is what we have here. You understand? So, for you to say will be crashed, well, it's fine. That is your opinion. But if the process had gone the way it was supposed to go, even if it would be lost, I'm not sure many people would take it away. But the dissatisfaction is the fact that the Electoral Commission promised to deliver in a certain way. and it didn't do that. And this was a commission that kept promising and promising and promising. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, is that you saw security, and this is what we've been saying here. Security agencies who were supposed to protect voters folding their arms and not doing anything, even when people were being intimidated and profiled and stereotyped because they looked a certain way and they were refused to participate in the process. So, how do you expect people to engage that kind of system going forward? So, it's not just about an OB. I think we should begin to look beyond the OB thing and look at the process itself. Because until we begin to do that, we just keep politicizing this whole thing. And I don't think it is the right way to approach an issue like this. And this should be looked at dispassionately. Was the process proper? How much of the failure in the process resulted in apathy? I think that would have been a better way to approach this issue.
Well, thank you. But it is not so, especially in the camp of the governing party. Most supporters of the APC say what happened in the governorship and state assembly elections, where the governing APC tend to be having the upper hand, was as a result of the bandwagon effect. A situation where just because the government at the center is still the APC, so most of the APC governors retained their seats. Most of the states where it was even a new governor expected and not an incumbent governor seeking a second term, APC had the day, and then we saw PDP winning in some of its strongholds. Say for Kanu, where the Kwankwasia win had blown the state, as in put confined Governor Abdullahi Gandhi in political oblivion. They are still saying that the idea that the APC won most of the state is as a result of the bandwagon effect, where most people of the state decided to say, okay, it is better our state align with the government at the center. What do you think about it?
But there is that thinking, and I think at this point, whatever narrative we have is a function of where the how do they put it now, how it favors your interest. Um, it is not surprising that the APC, like we did point out, will be saying something like that, and it's not surprising that the PDP will be crying foul in areas where they thought they would win and they didn't win. And of course, APC would naturally say the things himself. But like I've been saying, my own is to focus on the process. I'm more interested in the process, but not necessarily the politics. Because if you go into the politics, everybody will claim, "Oh, I deserve to win this. I have done the homework enough. I deserve to win. Oh, I have done this. I have done that. Oh, they rigged me. They didn't rig me. Blah blah blah." But the focus should be on the process. In areas where the process worked and there was no voter suppression and all of that and all of that, how did the process pan out? Did the process allow the will of the people to speak? Because we are seeing different scenarios in different states. For instance, look at what is playing out in Adamawa. How can you say that when the process, the security could be so lax that talks will storm, like for instance in Abia, talks will storm the polling collation center and just disrupt the whole process? How do you explain that? Was there no intelligence to know that this kind of thing was building up until it happened, eventually happened? Where were the security people around there? We are talking about the collation center now. We're not talking about polling units. It was as bad as such things happening at polling units. But a collation center, this is what is happening. And then you have in states, for instance, where, as we speak, I think the same thing also played out in Kaduna, where now they have to do local government all over again. So they're having to recompile people for local government all over again. How do you explain this kind of thing? So that when a person eventually emerges, people will now start saying, "Oh, well, I would have won if not that the process was." And there is a window for that kind of complaint because the process was actually interrupted. So these are some of the problems that we would expect the institutions to take care of. And whose responsibility that have been? Is police, the security ought to have ensured that these things don't happen. And so you begin to ask question yourself, what is the level of, and it goes back to the whole picture of our security crisis in this country. What is the level of, is there a willful disregard for intelligence, to checkmate some of these things? Or was it just a case of, oh, everybody was just relaxed, and just took things for granted, and now this is where we are. So when the process is not properly managed, you get to a position like this where people begin to hold defensive. And the ultimate danger is that it creates what we just experienced, a voter party system, which translates to a few people determining who becomes governor, and the level of accountability becomes very low. And at the end of the day, the tendency of affecting the governance system becomes very high. And we are back to
Square one. Thank you very much. The situation too in Adama is quite interesting. As of yesterday, we saw this lady, Aisha Buhari, Aisha, this Binani from results earlier posted, or result we saw earlier online. Aisha Buhari, but Binani was coasting him to victory until we now started observing something different, and especially today now, we are beginning to see something different. And the protest from Adamawa is that the woman was victim. The woman was. Why were the results? Well, what did they say? Why were the results conflicting? Because most people are alleging that what they saw online, what they are now saying is quite different. And
you know, it's one of the things that, in fairness to the commission has repeatedly, spoke up about, or spoke up against, and even some other, civil society organizations, that declaration of results should be strictly the purview of the independent INEC. INEC should be the only body, that will declare results. So, but again, and I think it fits into and it comes back to INEC, unfortunately, because it fits into this sense of fear that people will not get the right, INEC might not do the right thing, and so you have people pushing out results, on social
they are
media.
not official.
Yes, because as of when that election was started, results were already circulating everywhere, projecting her victory. Unfortunately, the PDP candidate who also had his own results circulating as well. Because if you argue, they'll tell you it's from a situation, both parties had their own situation. So as of the build up to when the collation, or the yes, collation of results at the state collation center started, before it started, the results were already everywhere, such that even the former British High Commission, Katrina Liam, was even dragged into the whole euphoria of, the female Nigeria having the first female governor, elect. So she had to put something on Twitter, and it was there for quite a long time. It gave people the impression that, okay, she probably knows much more than, everybody. She wouldn't want to be that reckless in putting out something, and even though some people felt, okay, she should have waited for the Independent National Commission to make the proper declaration on who was before putting out, considering the weight of our personality in the office. But I understand she eventually pulled it down at some point. But when that kind of scenario sets in, it was always going to be confusing for people following, because Adamawa State is beyond, besides Binani being a major, player in this season. Adamawa has always, been that state where it's usually very hard to predict how
The outcome of the election.
you understand, and because of the weight of political heavyweights you have in the state, it's always been very intriguing. But to add spice to this season's election, we have a woman who has, in the primaries, defeated a lot of very influential politicians, including the former presidential candidate and EFCC chairman, Nuhu and some other bigwigs of APC, that she even had to go through the court process to reclaim her mandate. So it created a lot of hype and expectation around the Adamawa election because she was particularly involved. And so when results came out projecting her victory, it was understandable that people will get really emotional about it and get worked up around the whole election. And it also coincided with Mother's Day, interesting. So there was all of this expectation and hype and expectation. Just wanted something fresh, something new to play out on the field. Unfortunately, it was all muddled up with results that were not coming from INEC. And so now when you have some other kind of result coming out from the pollution center, it was naturally going to create this kind of scenario. But I think that the INEC should have been more mindful of this, because it goes back, to how INEC perceives events as they play out. If you have INEC also has a situation, so I would have expected that they would have noticed what was playing out and try to be a bit more proactive in ensuring that this thing does not get out of hand. Now we are having to see many people beginning to assume or believe that something untoward appears to be playing out, because you have the explain situation where every other polling unit has been called and there's just one waiting, and everybody now has to wait and put attention on that. And all of the suspense has mounted this far. So hopefully, we expect that INEC will do the right thing and ensure that what actually played out in Fufu, which is the North Local Government will be a true reflection of what played out. What will be declared will be a true reflection of what played out in the election.
Well, thank you, Chibuzo. Well, two things are involved here. There are the opposition members in the opposition camp who say that the election was marred by irregularity, ranging from vote buying to suppression of voters, snatching of ballot box, and the ensuing violence involving even some unknown gunmen abducting INEC officials, journalists beaten to death. Some were actually beaten right in front of the palace of a prominent traditional ruler in the southwest, inside the palace. Well, for the governing party and supporters of the governing party, APC, they say what played out in the governorship and state assembly election was the bandwagon effect from the February 25, 2023 presidential and national assembly election. Whichever it goes, it is a political process that is unfolding, and there is always one particular place to seek redress, and that is the judiciary. We will all see how it comes and how it will go, and as we expect other results that are yet to be declared. Thank you for keeping tab with us, and of course our tanker in-house analysts for addressing the big issue. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast.